Hello, this is Dave Nadler with the National Weather Service in Peachtree City with your weekly weather briefing for North and Central Georgia. It's Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. Here are the main highlights. We are not expecting any immediate weather concerns through Friday. We have seen some unseasonably cool temperatures that will continue into tonight, but we're not expecting widespread sub-freezing temperatures like we saw earlier this morning. Our main focus over the next few days is going to be active weather on Saturday. We are looking for the potential for strong to severe storms along with heavy rain that could lead to localized flooding or flash flooding across much of north and central Georgia. Generally looking at the risks to increase after 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday and continuing throughout pretty much the entire day into the early evening hours. Good news is that dry and stable conditions will return on Sunday following Saturday's system and persist through the middle of next week, with temperatures warming back up above normal by the early part of next week. Latest conditions, looking at a satellite image earlier this morning, clear skies across much of the area where the region is definitely dominated by high pressure, as you can see from the mid-Missouri River Valley all the way down to the southeast, resulting in dry and stable conditions and the cooler weather that we've seen over the last 24 hours. Okay, so looking ahead on into Saturday, here's a quick look at one of the model simulations that's sort of best aligned with what we're thinking at this time. We will start to see some rain overspread the area late Friday night into the early morning hours on Saturday. This is a snapshot of what things could look like early Saturday morning. Much of the area, the real focus is going to be where that warm front sets up, and early in the day, that warm front should be just south of our forecast area, basically draped across central and northern Mississippi, down across Alabama, central and southern Alabama, and then back across the southern part of Georgia. To the north of this front, this is where the threat for severe weather is going to be fairly low. To the south is where the warmer, more unstable air mass could support the threat, the higher threat for severe weather. So as you can see, late Friday night into the early mornings on Saturday, even though we'll start to see some light to moderate rain overspread the area, we're not really expecting anything in the way of severe weather at this time. Let's fast forward to about mid-morning on Saturday. You can see now that warm front has shifted a little bit farther to the north and east across, kind of cutting the state of Georgia in half, where to the north we could see some pretty significant rainfall start to develop, especially across northwest and north central Georgia by mid-morning on Saturday. However, that air mass is going to be relatively stable, so we're not expecting any severe weather, but we'll definitely have to watch the threat for locally heavy rain and the increased threat of flooding develop through the morning hours north of the warm front. To the south of the front, that's where things can get a little bit more interesting. Along and south of it is where we could see the threat of strong to severe storms start to develop. We could see just enough low-level wind shear along that boundary and to the south where there could be the potential starting to ramp up to see like a brief spin-up tornado, along with the potential for some damaging winds and locally heavy rain. So the risk for severe weather is going to increase by mid to late morning across parts of middle Georgia and to the south of that, basically along and south of that boundary that you see that's lined up on that map right now. Excuse me. So as we head into the midday hours, early afternoon, that front continues to lift to the north. You see that L is denoted by where the central focus of the area of low pressure will be over North Alabama and southern Tennessee. You can see to the south of the boundary, there'll be some more active storms developing. To the north of that front, there's going to be, looks like they're going to be ongoing showers and thunderstorms. Again, the threat for severe weather is lower to the north of that warm front boundary that you see kind of draped across North Georgia. But we're definitely going to have to watch anywhere across the state for the potential for severe weather during this time as the air mass starts to destabilize and warm up through the afternoon hours. But the better chance to see a storm that could be severe, capable of producing damaging winds, maybe some large hail, and even a brief tornado will be generally south of this front into the midday, early afternoon hours. Fast forward a few more hours into the middle of the afternoon. This is basically a snapshot about 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. At this point, the entire area is expected to be in what we call the warm sector. So that warm front is lifted well up into the eastern Tennessee and Carolinas area. The focus for any thunderstorm development is now going to start to materialize along and ahead of a cold front that's going to start approaching from the northwest, moving into northwest Georgia sometime during the afternoon hours. So any of these storms at this point across north and central Georgia will be capable of producing heavy rain along with localized damaging winds, large hail, and even the tornado threat is probably going to diminish during the afternoon hours as the flow becomes a little bit more what we call unidirectional. So we kind of lose that low-level turning of the wind as we head through the later half of the afternoon into the early evening hours. But there's still a chance to see a brief tornado along with the damaging wind threat with any of these storms that develop through the afternoon hours. In addition to all of that, we are going to see some storms sort of propagating over the same areas from earlier in the day. So the flood risk could certainly be elevated in these areas, especially across parts of North Georgia and West Central Georgia as we head through the afternoon hours. So we'll definitely be watching that as well. And then as we head into the late afternoon, early evening hours, again, that line of storms will continue to move to the south and east across north and central Georgia ahead of that cold front. Where behind that front, the air mass becomes more drier and more stable. So the severe threat is going to rapidly diminish behind that blue line, to the north and west of that blue line there. So we're going to continue to monitor parts of the area into the late afternoon, early evening hours for severe weather. Then note as we get past the 6 o'clock hour on Saturday, although there may be some showers and storms still ongoing across parts of middle Georgia as this front kind of swings to the east and southeast, the threat for severe weather will likely diminish just a bit because we sort of lose that daytime heating, and a lot of the organization with the storm system is going to move well off to the north and east by this time. So hopefully as we head to the very late afternoon, early evening hours on Saturday, yes, we still could see an isolated severe storm or two, but the threat for more widespread severe weather should be diminishing as we head into the early evening hours on Saturday. So here's what the Storm Prediction Center has for their latest outlook. Kind of lines up with what we're thinking, a slight risk for much of the area, especially along and south of the I-85, I-20 corridor. And this is where the area will be in the warm sector for much of the day from late morning all the way through the afternoon hours. And that's why the risk is just a little bit higher in the slight risk area, the area that's shaded in yellow. But basically anywhere across north and central Georgia, even the far northern areas like north of Dalton to Blairsville, Blue Ridge area could still see an isolated severe storm as we head through the late morning into the mid-afternoon hours. So we're going to have to watch the entire area, but the higher risk to see more pronounced severe weather will be any areas shaded in the yellow slight risk area on Saturday. And again, the primary threats are going to be damaging winds, but we definitely could see a few brief tornadoes spin up, especially along and south of that warm front as it lifts across to the north of the area through the morning into the early afternoon hours. And then during the afternoon, storms become a little bit more intense. The large hail threat starts to develop as well. We'll be looking at from mid-morning all the way through the afternoon hours the potential for heavy rainfall and localized flooding, especially where storms sort of propagate over the same areas, will be a concern. Here's the expected rainfall. This is what we have going right now, but this is certainly subject to change just depending on where that boundary, that warm front sort of sets up during the day on Saturday. But basically much of the area is expected to see widespread 1 to 2 inches of rain. Locally higher amounts up to 3 inches and even more in some spots are possible. And where we see sort of this training effect of storms moving over the same areas throughout the day, that's where the highest risk for flooding and or flash flooding is going to occur. So in addition to the severe threat, we will be monitoring the localized flooding and flash flood threat, especially for smaller streams and creeks that respond quickly to heavy rain over short periods of time. Any urban areas that experience the heavy rainfall for a couple of hours, along with low-lying and poor drainage areas, and the higher elevations of North Georgia will also be susceptible to some localized flash flooding throughout the day on Saturday. And just to sort of recap, well, just looking ahead, this is sort of the 7-day forecast for high and low temperatures for both Atlanta. The top graphic is for Atlanta, the bottom graphic is for Macon. You can see the trend anywhere where you live that we're going to start off kind of cool, below normal for the next couple of days, and as we head into the weekend, we'll be sort of at or just below normal, and then we'll warm up by the early part to middle part of next week back above normal. Normal highs right now for Atlanta are about 73, 74. Macon is just a couple degrees warmer than that. So you can see that upward trend in temperatures as we head through the weekend and into the first part of next week. So to summarize, again, we are not expecting any immediate weather concerns over the next couple of days. The widespread sub-freezing temperatures that we saw across generally the northern half of Georgia and parts of middle Georgia this morning will not be as impactful tonight into Friday morning. It will be cool, but we're not expecting any widespread temperatures getting at or below 32 degrees tonight. Definitely an active weather day on Saturday with the potential for strong to severe storms along with heavy rain that could lead to localized flooding and or flash flooding for pretty much the entire area, anywhere between about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning all the way through about 6, 7 o'clock in the evening on Saturday. Conditions do dry out and stabilize Sunday through the early to middle part of next week, and we do expect a warming trend to occur by the early to middle part of next week as this dry conditions return to the area. Well, that concludes our weekly briefing for Thursday, April 22nd. Again, thank you for joining us and for watching what we have to say about the next few days across the area. Here's the various ways you can certainly connect with us, and we hope that everybody has a great rest of the day and a good, safe weekend. Thank you.